The moment I caught my mother-in-law, Evelyn, slipping a mysterious powder into my mojito at her swanky 4th of July barbecue, I knew my life was about to become a blockbuster thriller. My name's Ethan Caldwell, a 34-year-old graphic designer from Austin, Texas, who clawed his way from doodling in high school notebooks to crafting award-winning ad campaigns for tech startups. I'm not just good at my job, I'm the guy who made billboards for that electric car company you can't stop hearing about, the one with the CEO who tweets memes at 3 in the morning. But to my in-laws, Evelyn and Harold, I'm just the artsy guy who married their daughter, Sophie, and somehow failed to become a hedge fund bro or a corporate lawyer. They've got a mansion in Westlake Hills, a yacht named Prosperity, and a chip on their shoulders bigger than the Texas Longhorns Stadium. Every family gathering feels like a scene from a sitcom where I'm the punchline and they're the laugh track. Sophie and I met 7 years ago at a South by Southwest afterparty, where my designs were projected on a warehouse wall, and she was pitching her clean energy startup to a room full of venture capitalists. She's got this spark, part scientist, part dreamer, that makes you believe the world can actually change. We clicked over cheap tacos and a shared hatred of pretentious networking events. Fast forward, we're married, living in a quirky bungalow downtown, and trying to start a family. But her parents? They treat me like I'm a temporary tenant in Sophie's life, destined to be evicted the moment she comes to her senses. Harold, a retired oil executive with a mustache that screams, "I own 3 vacation homes," loves to grill me about my little art projects over Sunday brunch. Evelyn, meanwhile, is all smiles and passive-aggressive jabs, introducing me as Ethan, the graphic designer, with the same tone you'd use to say, "Ethan, the guy who collects vintage bottle caps." Their disapproval isn't just annoying, it's a full-on campaign. Last Thanksgiving, I overheard Evelyn on the phone with her book club sighing, "Sophie could have married that crypto guy Landon. You know, the one with the private jet? But she picked the creative type." The word creative dripped with the kind of disdain you'd reserve for someone who shows up to a black tie event in flip-flops. Harold's worse. When Sophie mentioned we were saving for a bigger house, he pulled me aside and said, "Kids cost money, son. Maybe trade in the paintbrushes for a real paycheck." I smiled, shook his hand, and bit my tongue so hard I tasted copper. I didn't tell Sofiesha adores her parents, flaws and all, and I wasn't about to make her choose sides. But I should have paid more attention to the red flags. Evelyn forgetting to invite me to their annual charity gala. Harold suggesting couples counseling because of my unstable career choices. The way they'd both change the subject whenever I landed a big client, like that national ad campaign for a plant-based burger chain. That 4th of July, I'd just come back from a grueling project in San Francisco, designing visuals for a tech conference that had every Silicon Valley bigwig in attendance. I was exhausted, my eyes burning from 16-hour days staring at Photoshop, but Sophie begged me to show up for her mom's big bash. "Just a few hours," she said, her green eyes pleading. "It's her 60th birthday. I should have listened to that gut feeling telling me to stay home and binge a true crime podcast instead." Evelyn's estate was decked out like a patriotic fever, dreamed white and blue streamers, a live band playing Springsteen covers, and enough barbecue to feed half of Travis County. I was sipping a beer, dodging Harold's questions about my freelance hustle, when Evelyn cornered me by the pool house. "Ethan, darling," she cooed, handing me a mojito with a mint sprig so perfect it looked staged. "I whipped this up just for you. A little thank you for being such a unique addition to the family." Her smile was tighter than a Botoxed forehead, and I swear I saw her hand shake as she passed me the glass. I glanced at the drink. Something was off, a faint shimmer on the surface, like the residue you'd see in a chemistry lab, not a cocktail. I'd seen enough true crime docs to know better than to chug a suspicious beverage. "Let me grab Harold one too," I said, playing dumb. I strolled into the kitchen, where Evelyn was fussing over a tray of cupcakes, and grabbed another mojito from the counter. Back at the patio, Harold was holding court, lecturing Sophie's brother Nate about stock portfolios. "Mojito, sir?" I said, sliding the tampered drink in front of him. He grunted, barely looking up, and took a swig. I stuck to my beer, claiming I was cutting back on sugar. 45 minutes later, Harold was greener than the mint in his glass, sprinting to the bathroom like he was auditioning for the Olympics. The sounds coming from that guest suite, let's just say they weren't patriotic. Evelyn's face went white as a ghost when she realized what happened. Her eyes locked on mine, and for a split second, it was like we were in a standoff at high noon. She knew I knew. I didn't say a word, just munched on a slider and smiled like I was enjoying the fireworks. Sophie was too busy helping her dad to notice, and the party chaos kids running wild, the band butchering, Sweet Caroline covered my silence, but inside, I was raging. Not the kind of rage that makes you flip a table, but the cold, calculated kind that says, game on. I wasn't just going to let this slide. I was going to turn their own playbook against them, and I'd do it with the kind of flair that makes Spielberg jealous. That Monday, I took the untouched mojito glass to a buddy, Marcus, who runs a toxicology lab downtown. He owed me a favor after I designed his company's logo for free. Personal or professional? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Family drama, I replied. 3 days later, he called. Ethan, there's lorazepam in this. Not enough to kill you, but enough to make you sleep through a rock concert or maybe forget your own name for a bit. Where'd you get this? I thanked him, asked for a report, and kept my lips sealed. Lorazepam, Evelyn's anxiety meds. I started digging. Turns out, she'd been getting prescriptions from 4 different doctors, stockpiling pills like she was prepping for the apocalypse. I also heard whispers around town, Evelyn getting kicked out of a charity auction for borrowing a diamond bracelet, her yelling at a neighbor's kid for stepping on her azaleas. The woman wasn't just controlling, she was unhinged. I didn't tell Sophie yet. She'd been distant since the party, probably sensing the tension but not knowing why. Instead, I played detective. I set up a meeting with Evelyn, claiming I'd take headshots for her new real estate side hustle. She loved the idea of looking like a power broker on Instagram. I showed up at their mansion with my camera and a manila envelope stuffed with the tox report and her shady prescription history. Before we start, I said, handing her the envelope, you might want to read this. Her face went from smug to shaky as she scanned the pages. This is ridiculous, she stammered. I'd never, I cut her off. We both know what you did. The question is why. Her mask slipped. You're not enough for Sophie, she hissed. You're a dreamer with a laptop, not a provider. I just wanted her to see you're unreliable, maybe miss that big pitch you've been hyping. She'd planned to knock me out during a major client meeting, hoping Sophie would see me as a flake. I leaned in, voice low. Here's the deal, Evelyn. You and Harold start treating me like family, or Sophie gets this envelope. And trust me, I've got backups. Her laugh was brittle. She'll never believe you over us. I shrugged. Maybe. But she'll believe the lab report and the pharmacist who's ready to talk. Your call. I left without snapping a single photo. That night, Evelyn called Sophie, spinning a tale about me being aggressive during the shoot. Sophie came home, eyes red, asking why I'd upset her mom. I couldn't hold back anymore. I showed her the report, the prescriptions, even some texts Evelyn had sent me, dripping with shade about my unstable lifestyle. Sophie's face crumpled. My mom wouldn't do this, she whispered, but her voice wavered. She went to her parents' house alone the next day. When she came back, she was quieter, her faith in her parents shaken but not broken. Then a package arrived, no return address, just my name in loopy handwriting. Inside was a USB drive and a note. You need to see this. Rachel. Rachel was Nate's wife, Sophie's sister-in-law, and apparently my new ally. The USB had security footage from Evelyn and Harold's house, time-stamped from the barbecue. There was Evelyn, clear as day, sprinkling powder into my mojito. There I was, swapping the glasses. And there was Harold, chugging the spiked drink like it was Gatorade. But the real bombshell came later. Footage from after the party, Evelyn screaming at Harold, "You idiot! You drank the wrong one." Harold snapped back, "This isn't the first time you've pulled something like this, Evelyn." The next clip was from 2 days later, the two of them in their study, plotting. "He knows," Harold said. "So what?" Evelyn replied, "Sophie will never choose him over us. I've already told her he's been distant, stressed. By the time I'm done, she'll think leaving him was her idea. I watched the footage 4 times, my stomach churning. This wasn't just about Mate, was about controlling Sophie's entire life. They'd done it before, and they'd do it again. I called Rachel. "Why send this?" I asked. Her voice was quiet. "They tried to break me and Nate up too. Said I wasn't their kind. I stayed because of our son, but I couldn't watch them do it to you and Sophie." I thanked her and hung up, my mind racing. I needed more. I reached out to Sophie's old college friend, Mia, who dropped another bombshell. Sophie had been engaged to a guy named Connor, a renewable energy consultant, before me. Her parents convinced her he was too ambitious, planting doubts until she called it off. The pattern was crystal clear. Anyone who didn't fit Evelyn and Harold's mold got the boot. I started collecting evidence, like I was building a case for the FBI. I tracked down Connor, who sent me old emails showing how Evelyn had accidentally forwarded him a fake text from Sophie, making it look like she was cheating. I talked to Sophie's high school boyfriend, who said Harold paid him to move on after graduation. I even found a former family friend who'd been cut off after encouraging Sophie to pursue her startup dreams. Rachel slipped me more footage, including a chilling clip of Evelyn saying, "Once they split, we'll get Sophie back home. She can run the family foundation. Meet the right kind of man." It was a masterclass in manipulation, and I was done playing nice. I invited Nate and Rachel over for dinner, keeping Sophie in the dark. Over tacos and margaritas, I hooked my laptop to the TV. "You both need to see this," I said, hitting play. For 90 minutes, we watched the footage, emails, and texts unfold. Sophie sat frozen, her hands gripping her glass. Nate kept muttering, "This can't be real." When it was over, Sophie's voice broke. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I met her eyes. "Because I needed you to see the whole truth, not just what they did to me, but what they've done to you your whole life." Nate was furious, accusing me of faking the videos, but Rachel grabbed his hand. "They did it to us too, Nate. Why do you think they suddenly warmed up to me after we had Liam? They wanted leverage." That night, Sophie barely spoke, curling up in bed and staring at the wall. The next morning, Evelyn called, all sunshine and rainbows. "Sweetie, why don't you come stay with us for a bit? Marriage is tough, and a break might help." Sophie put her on speaker. "Mom, I've seen the footage. You drugged Ethan's drink. You and Dad planned to ruin my marriage." Silence. Then Evelyn's voice, sharp as a knife. "Whatever he showed you is fake. He's always been jealous of our family." Sophie didn't flinch. "We're coming over tonight. All of us, Ethan, Nate, Rachel, me. No more lies." She hung up, turning to me. "They'll twist this. They always do." I grinned. "Then let's make sure they can't." We showed up at their mansion like a SWAT team with better manners. I set up my camera, claiming I was documenting family history. Evelyn protested, but I waved her off. "It's for the archives. I'm family, right?" For 2 hours, we laid out everything: the mojito, the emails, Connor's story, the footage. Evelyn and Harold denied it all, calling me paranoid, unstable, even a gold digger. But with every denial, I played another clip, showed another email. Their faces crumpled like cheap paper. Sophie stood up, voice steady. "I love you both, but you don't get to control me anymore. I choose Ethan. I choose my life." Nate, still reeling, added, "We're done letting you pick our partners, our paths." Rachel squeezed his hand, tears in her eyes. As we left, I handed Harold a USB drive. "This has everything," I said. "Keep it. I'm not sharing it with your golf buddies or your boardroom pals that hurt Sophie, and I'd never do that. But if you ever meddle again, copies go to everyone you know." Harold's eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of something new: respect, maybe. "I underestimated you," he said. "Yeah," I replied, "you did." 6 months later, things were different. Sophie and Nate started therapy to unpack their parents' control. Evelyn and Harold kept their distance, sending polite texts but respecting our boundaries. Then came Christmas. They invited us for a fresh start dinner. Sophie wanted to go. "They're still my parents," she said. I agreed, but I wasn't drinking anything they poured. The dinner was surprisingly normal. Evelyn gushed over Sophie's startup. Harold asked about my latest campaign with genuine curiosity. After dessert, Harold pulled me into his study, offering me a whiskey. "I've been thinking," he said, all charm. "Your design work's impressive, but have you considered a corporate gig? I could get you in at my old firm, senior role, 6 figures." I set the glass down. "Appreciated. But no, this isn't about moving forward. It's about control." His smile vanished. "Don't be stupid, Ethan. Everyone's got a price." I leaned in. "Not me. And not Sophie." Back in the dining room, Evelyn was showing Sophie old photos, waxing nostalgic about simpler times. Sophie caught my eye, sensing the tension. She stood, clearing her throat. "Mom, Dad, I'm pregnant. 4 months along," Evelyn gasped, rushing to hug her. Harold froze, then offered a stiff, "Congratulations." I leaned close to him, whispering, "This kid's not your chess piece. Ever." He nodded once, understanding. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived from Harold's lawyer. Inside was the deed to our bungalow, fully paid off, and a trust fund for our unborn son, no strings attached. It wasn't an apology. It was a concession. Our son, Lucas, was born that summer. Evelyn and Harold visited the hospital, bringing gifts but keeping their distance. They cooed over Lucas, took a few photos, and left without a single lecture. Months later, our relationship with them settled into a cautious normal. They didn't apologize, but they stopped meddling. One night, Sophie got a call. "Mom wants us for Christmas," she said, cradling Lucas. "What do you think?" I shrugged. "We go. But our rules. Hotel. Not their house. We leave when we want." She nodded. "You know, I used to think success was making them proud. Now I know it's about building a life we love, with people who lift us up." She paused, smiling. "You taught me that." That spring, I launched my own design studio in Austin's Arts District. The opening was packed: friends, clients, even my parents, who flew in from Colorado. Evelyn and Harold showed up too, lingering just long enough to admire my work. Harold shook my hand, his grip firm but not combative. "Nice setup," he said. Evelyn held Lucas for a moment, under Sophie's watchful eye, and left without a single suggestion. As we locked up, Sophie asked, "Have they changed?" I thought for a moment. "No, but they know they can't change us. Sometimes that's enough." Sitting on our porch that night, Lucas asleep upstairs, I realized the real victory wasn't outsmarting Evelyn and Harold. It was refusing to play their game. I'd built a life on my terms, with a wife who believed in me and a son who'd grow up knowing what it means to stand tall. That's the kind of legacy worth leaving. Hey, if this story fired you up to break free from toxic expectations and chase your own path, hit that subscribe button and join the crew. Let's keep pushing to live life on our terms. Drop a comment. What's one boundary you've set to protect your dreams? Let's inspire each other.